Today we're going to be talking about the organization of a skeletal muscle, how a skeletal muscle forms, and the three types of muscle tissue. So on this first screen here, we're going to be talking about the organization of a skeletal muscle. But before we start that, I'm going to talk to you about tendons. So in this picture right here, where I'm drawing this blue line on the side, on the left-hand side, that's representing your muscle. That's representing your bone. And you'll see this white area here that's between the bone and the muscle. This white represents a tendon. So a tendon is going to be the structure that attaches a muscle to a bone. So again, the tendon here is the structure that attaches a muscle to a bone. Okay. Now you also have a special type of tendon called an aponeurosis. An aponeurosis is a sheet-like tendon, and you have them in your lower back. But it's just a sheet-like tendon that attaches a muscle to a bone. That's the only difference. It's still a tendon. Okay. It's just in the form of a sheet versus a band. Okay. So now let's talk about the top picture there. I'll tell you what, let's talk about where it comes from. So I'm going to use my little pen here again. So you'll see in this picture right here, that picture right there is demonstrating an entire muscle, okay? But if we cut that muscle away, then we will see this first picture up here. Well, I'll label it number 1. Then we'll go to picture 2 in a minute, and then we'll go to picture 3, okay? So again, I've labeled them so we know which picture we're looking at. So at the bottom down there with the blue arrow, this is again showing an entire muscle, okay? And around an entire muscle, you have a connective tissue protective layer called the epimysium. Remember the prefix epi? Epi means sitting upon or sitting above. So the epimysium sits above or just around the outside of the entire muscle. And remember, myo means muscle. So epimysium is just the covering that sits around the outside of the entire muscle. Okay, and in there you will also see, right, I'm gonna highlight it for you. I think I'm gonna highlight it for you. Let's see. Okay, so right here, you'll see in yellow, and I'm gonna circle it in yellow up here on picture 1 as well. So circle in yellow right there. You'll see that you have blood vessels and you also have nerve fibers. So within that epimysium, so inside of that epimysium, you have blood vessels and you have nerve fibers. Okay, now you'll see in picture 1, you'll see around that whole muscle there, you have the epimysium, and within that whole muscle, you have these bundles. These bundles are called muscle fascicles, okay? So a muscle fascicle is gonna be in the inside of that epimysium. Then we go down to picture 2 out there. Picture 2, we're taking one of those bundles, one of those muscle fascicles, and we're pulling it out, okay? So again, from picture 2, you're seeing, let me go back to my colors here. So we're going from right here, we're pulling out this muscle fascicle, and we're going to go to this picture here, picture 2, okay? In picture 2, it is showing one muscle fascicle, and around that muscle fascicle is the perimysium. Peri means around, and myo means muscle. So your perimysium is a connective tissue covering that goes all the way around a muscle fascicle. Okay. Now you'll see each one of these circular bundles in the muscle fascicle, each one of those, we have 1, 2, so I've colored in 3 of them there. Each one of those bundles is now pulled out, and we'll go to this picture down here, picture 3. Each one of those bundles from picture 2 pulled out, and we're seeing it in picture 3, is a muscle fiber or a muscle cell. Remember, you can use those terms interchangeably. So a muscle fiber is also called a muscle cell, okay? So within that muscle fiber picture down there in picture number 3, you can see that a muscle fiber is completely surrounded by a protective connective tissue layer called the endomysium. So endo means on the inside, okay? So this is the connective tissue protective covering on the very inside of that muscle around each muscle cell, okay? So then on the inside of picture of number 3 down there, inside of that muscle fiber, you see these red dots. Those red dots are representing a myofibril, okay? And you'll also see you have a nucleus in there. You have some mitochondria in there. Remember, mitochondria, those are going to be producing ATP. So those are the powerhouses of the cell. They're the ones that produce the ATP that your body will use for energy. Then you'll also see within that endomysium, you have a myosatellite cell. Remember, your myosatellite cells are your nurse cells. They're the ones that are going to nurse that muscle cell back to health after an injury. So they're going to help with tissue repair after an injury to the muscle cell. Okay, let me erase all of my drawings here, or all of my scribbles. Okay, so now let's talk about the order. If I ask you to order all of these things from superficial to deep. Okay, superficial means towards the outside and deep means towards the inside. So going from superficial to deep, this is the order you will find these things, okay? 1, the epimysium. Then going further down, you will have the paramysium, then the muscle fascicle, then the endomysium, then the muscle cell or muscle fiber, then the myofibril, okay? So again, from superficial to deep, you would have epimysium, then you would hit the paramysium, then you would hit the fascicle, then you would hit the endomysium, then you would hit the muscle fiber, then you would hit the myofibril, okay? So now let's go down to the next picture. Fast forward it too far. There we go. Okay, so again, remember your skeletal muscle cells are also called muscle fibers. But here we're going to talk about how a muscle fiber is formed. So I'm going to, again, get my little pen here. Bear with me just a sec. Okay, so this is picture 1. This is going to be picture 2. This is going to be picture 3. And this is going to be picture 4. And then up here, we'll have both of those as being picture 5. So let's start up here at picture 1. Okay. So right here is picture 1. In picture 1, what you're seeing are a bunch of stem cells. So remember, your stem cells are like your baby cells. They haven't grown up yet. So the stem cells of muscles are called myoblasts, okay? These are the immature muscle cells. So myoblasts, again, are immature muscle cells. And you'll see you have 2 different kinds up there. One kind is going to grow up to be the muscle fiber itself, and one is going to remain a stem cell that is the nursemaid to the muscle fiber. So one of them will remain a stem cell called a myosatellite cell. Okay, so the yellow one, you will see the yellow cell never merges with the rest of those cells. The muscle cell will merge together, but this yellow cell is going to stay yellow, and it stays by itself. If you'll see from picture 1 to picture 2 to picture 3, it always sits on the outside of the other muscle cells. This is your myosatellite cell or your nursemaid cell, okay? But going back up to picture 1, you see that you have 3 myoblasts here. And as they develop, one myoblast will merge with another myoblast, and then it will merge with another myoblast, and merge with another one, then merge with another. So it keeps growing in length as it matures. Okay, so from picture 1 to picture 2, you'll see that 2 of those pink myoblast cells there. Okay, then in picture 3, you can see where 4 of those cells have merged together, and you know 4 have merged because you have 4 nuclei, okay? So every time you have a cell merged together, not only does it grow in length, but that that muscle fiber, also adds nuclei because it's adding another nuclei from another myoblast. So then you go down to picture number 4 down there, and you just have tons of myoblasts that have merged together to form one long, mature muscle fiber or muscle cell. And then you can still see those little yellow satellite cells or myosatellite cells around the outside of that muscle fiber. Okay, now if you look up in picture 5, we have blown up just a section from picture 4. So picture 5 is just enlarged there. And you can see that you have the sarcolemma. Remember, your sarcolemma is the plasma membrane around the muscle cell. And then underneath that, you will see your nuclei. Then you will also have your mitochondria in there. Remember, your mitochondria are your powerhouses. They produce your ATP. And then you also have those red dots called myofibrils. And in those myofibrils, you're going to have alternating thin fibers, thick fibers, thin fibers, thick fibers, thin fibers, thick fibers, and so on. And those alternating thin and thick fibers are causing those tiger stripes called striations. So you'll see in picture 5, both the cartoon picture and then the microscopic picture, you have those striations or those tiger stripes. So a skeletal muscle tissue will have multinucleated cells, right? Because we showed that on picture 4, where one muscle cell has multiple nucleuses throughout that cell. And it also is going to have those striations or those tiger stripes. Next, sorry about that other picture coming up there. Okay, now let's talk about, if I can get my picture to go down here. Erase my pen mark here. Now on this picture, I'm having problems with my screen moving. There we go. This top one, what we're going to be doing on this picture is we're going to be comparing the 3 different types of muscle tissue. And you had all 3 of these types when we talked about the different tissues in our histology unit. So remember, in our histology unit, we talked about all of the epithelial tissues, all of the connective tissues, all of the nerve tissues, and we talked about all of the muscle tissues. And remember, we had 3 different types of muscle tissues. We had skeletal muscle tissue, we had cardiac muscle tissue, and we had smooth muscle tissue. You still have to be able to identify these under a microscope for this unit as well. And you have to be able to identify what the parts in them and what's different between the different muscle tissues. So let's go through and we'll discuss all that now. So the top one here is showing a skeletal muscle. And you'll see with your skeletal muscles, these are going to move our skeletons or move our bones and allow us to move around. Okay. These muscle fibers are very, very thick, so they're very large, and they're straight. They're not branched, okay? And they have multinucleated muscle fibers, meaning that you have multiple nucleuses per cell. And they are striated, or they're striped, okay? So again, your skeletal muscle fibers are large, thick, straight fibers that are multinucleated and have striations, okay? Make sure you can identify this as skeletal muscle tissue underneath the microscope, and make sure you can label the striations and the nuclei. Okay, now going down to the next one. So this one right here, this row right here, is showing the cardiac muscle tissue. And if you will see, let me get my pen back. If you'll see in here, these branch, okay? So these muscle fibers are branching muscle fibers. So your cardiac muscle fibers are branched muscle fibers. They are uninucleated, meaning only one nucleus per muscle fiber. And they have striations. They also have intercalated discs. Your intercalated discs are where one muscle fiber is going to zip together with another muscle fiber. Okay, so again, a cardiac muscle tissue is found in the heart, because cardiac means heart. So cardiac muscle tissue is found in the heart. It is going to be smaller branched fibers that are uninucleated. They are striated, means they're striped, and they have intercalated discs, which are those zipper joints. Okay, and in a microscope slide, excuse me, you will have to label these intercalated discs. You'll have to label a nucleus. So these are nucleus, our nuclei right here. And then you would have to be able to recognize these thin stripes. I'll just draw them in yellow here. They're really hard to see. You have to kind of use your fine focus and focus up and down. So these finer lines here that I wrote in yellow, those would be your striation. Okay. The dark lines are going to be the intercalated discs. Okay, now let's go to our last muscle tissue. Our last muscle tissue is smooth muscle tissue. Smooth muscle tissue is found in areas that move food, so in your digestive tract. They also are found in areas that move urine, so they're found in your urinary tract. And it's found in your reproductive tract because it moves the egg and the sperm along. They're also found in the blood vessels. Okay, so again, your smooth muscle tissue is found in your digestive tract, your urinary tract, your reproductive tract, and in your blood vessels. Smooth muscle tissue is small, wispy fibers. They're shaped like spindles, meaning they have very pointy ends. They are uninucleated, meaning they only have one nucleus per muscle cell. And they're smooth. They have no striation. Okay? And that wraps up this video. See you guys next time.